Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about a new ethics interpretation. There are several interpretations that are going to be effective in December of this year or January of next year, and there have been questions that have been raised. And so the AICPA has issued a TQA, and in this scenario, they are trying to address some of the questions that came in. Now, this TQA in particular is Q&A section 250, non-attest services, specifically related to information system services. Now, this has been a pretty bumpy ride. They issued this standard several years ago, and when they did so, they've had to delay it 2 times. First, obviously, due to COVID, right? Not much we can do about that. But the second time was actually due to concerns raised by stakeholders. Many firms had questions, in particular around what we're going to talk about today, which is the help desk that they had included guidance on. And so as a result, the AICPA actually held a roundtable in Las Vegas this summer as part of their Engage conference to better understand the questions that were being raised by different firms. And so as a result of that, they have issued a TQA question and answer to help us understand what their intent was. So the first question that's in this TQA is the users contact an IT help desk with requests such as getting answers to questions or resolving issues. Requests can range from common simple questions for which an answer can be scripted to more complicated issues that may require escalation to someone with a higher level of expertise within the help desk function. And the question that they asked, what should a member consider when evaluating whether these professional services would involve a member assuming management responsibilities? Because part of the information system services says that when something is an ongoing post-implementation element, then it would impair independence, and it explicitly listed help desk. And people are like, well, hold on. If it's a one-off question versus if it is something a little bit more, what could happen? And so the answer was obviously judgment, right? We can't write rules for everything, which is why we have gone towards a threats and safeguards approach. So members would need to use professional judgment when determining if a test client outsourced an ongoing function, process, or activity to the member that resulted in them assuming a management responsibility. But they also provided several charts. And in this chart, they talk a little bit about when an activity would not be assuming a management responsibility, like simply being engaged to provide recommendations on a new system, versus when it would be assuming a management responsibility. For example, the attest client engaged the member to operate or manage the client's help desk. And so they give some examples, and you can see there's more to be found. And we've given you a link here that you can go to in the notes in case you would like to take a look closer at this, because again, very hot topic of conversation. Another question that was asked in this TQA is under the information system services interpretation, is post-production stabilization support, or what they call hypercare, considered an implementation service or a post-implementation service? And as you can see here, hypercare is part of the final stage of implementation and not a post-implementation activity, and should last for only a reasonably short period of time, which again depends on the scope and complexity of the implemented system. In any event, members should use professional judgment when determining what period of time would be for that particular client as well as software. And so when we look at providing hypercare for COTS, commercial off-the-shelf product, when we're looking at these types of what we call financial information systems, or FISs, FIS, the software solution to assist the test client with software implementation does not impair independence so long as it is meeting the other requirements of the non-attest service. Client accepts responsibility, have the proper wording inside of the engagement letter, they assign someone with the proper SKI. And then our last question here is specifically quoting the standard. So item C in paragraph 21 of Information System Services Interpretation provides that independence will be impaired if the member has responsibility to perform ongoing network maintenance, such as updating virus protection solutions, applying routine patches, and or configuring user settings. And so the question that was raised, what should a member consider when evaluating whether professional services involve assuming management responsibility, because again, when you're doing these types of items, they're deemed to be automatic impairments of independence because you're taking on a role of management and the management participation threat is so significant. There's no safeguards that can reduce it to an acceptable level. And so here what they're trying to do is give us a little bit better understanding of when do we cross that line. And so again, it's hard because they're constantly going to go back to our threats and safeguards approach. And so use your professional judgment when determining whether the attest client has outsourced an ongoing function, process, or activity. And so are you taking responsibility for the service, performing a management function, making a decision on behalf of the client, or are you part of the client's internal controls? Because again, in all of those scenarios, then there is no safeguard that can get it to an acceptable level. And again, they provide a chart of examples of when you would not be assuming a management responsibility versus when you are assuming a management responsibility. So hopefully this will help people be able to better understand the intent of the information system services, because there's a lot of feedback that this would be very detrimental to several firms, as well as to their clients who really depend on the firms for these types of services. So this was definitely work by Peak in order to better understand what types of services that the auditors were providing in this scenario, and to give some guardrails around what they can and cannot do. All right, so again, this standard is effective as of right now of January 1, 2023 after 2 delays. And so it is something that we should all be paying close attention to. It covers commercial off-the-shelf products. It covers financial information systems and non-financial information systems, and what we can and cannot do with our clients from this perspective. Lots of firms providing lots of different services in this area. So definitely something we want to be ready for, because it just starts December 1, right? So going forward from there. So, sorry, January 1. So I hope you enjoyed this blog, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.